Welcome back to the State of the Line podcast. I'm Christine Pike, and today I'm joined by Mark Mileusnic, NCCI's Chief Customer Operations Officer, to talk about our upcoming Annual Insights Symposium. Thank you for joining us today, Mark.
Thanks, Christine. I'm happy to be here.
In just a few weeks, more than 900 insurance industry leaders will convene to address today's most relevant issues and engage in meaningful conversations with stakeholders from all across the industry. Mark is here today to give us a behind-the-scenes look at this year's event. Mark, AIS has become a must-attend event for many of the folks in our industry. And when you think about it at a high level, what role does AIS play?
Well, AIS, along with all of the products, services, tools, and research that NCCI provides, helps to support a healthy workers' compensation system. Over a couple of very full days at AIS, we deliver a lot of great information and insights. It's actionable intelligence, it's comprehensive analysis, it's expert-led perspectives. We're going to provide insight into the most current financial results, but we'll also look at emerging topics and trends to help our stakeholders prepare for what's next.
And one of the questions we hear often is how the AIS agenda comes together. And from your perspective, Mark, where and when does that process start?
Well, AIS planning is pretty much year-round, and that's because the agenda starts with listening. We are regularly in communication with stakeholders throughout the year, including thousands of carrier engagements. We're constantly hearing what's top of mind for the industry, what stakeholders may be seeing, what questions they're grappling with. We're also gathering structured feedback through our annual Carrier Executive Survey and our regulatory survey. And these help reinforce the themes we're hearing more broadly across the industry.
And for our listeners, Mark, I'll just mention, Mark was here on the podcast last November. He discussed the results of the Carrier Executive Survey. And as always, that episode will be linked in the show notes. So back to AIS. NCCI is always engaging with stakeholders, as you mentioned, and we use that as continuous feedback. I imagine that there would be some recurring topics and themes maybe that come up over and over again. I know we talked about that previously with the survey, Mark. So how do you then translate those themes into actual sessions on stage?
Well, to start, there are some topics that are regularly top of mind for stakeholders, like the financial health of the system and rate adequacy. That's why we have Donna Glenn, our chief actuary, present our annual State of the Line report, which provides a system-level view that's really unmatched in its level of detail and data analysis. Donna always does just an outstanding job sharing new insights during this session. The economy is another topic that's always going to matter to the industry, and that's why we have Stephen Cooper present on the state of the economy and its impact to workers' compensation. There's obviously going to be a lot to talk about this year regarding economic impacts.
For sure. Definitely a lot to talk about. And I heard you mention the financial health of the system, economic uncertainty, which stood out in the Carrier Executive Survey as well as a top concern for the industry. So other concerns that we highlighted this past year were medical costs, changing workforce, and growing attention on artificial intelligence. I'm looking at the AIS 2026 agenda, and I'm seeing a bit of a parallel. Not a coincidence, I imagine.
You are right, Christine. That is not a coincidence. And to your point, we've got a session on navigating medical severity and claim outcomes, which will, of course, discuss medical costs and utilization. We also have two linked sessions on demographics, how they're shaping workplace risks, and also how they may be impacting workplace injury patterns.
Wait, hold on. We have two sessions on demographics. Let's pause for a second for a little more detail. Why are we actually holding two sessions? Why not one?
Yeah, sure. There's a lot happening on this topic right now. And to give the full picture, we thought it required two back-to-back sessions. So first, we have to start with what's shaping labor force participation. So think about aging workforce and migration patterns and population shifts. Then we're going to connect that with how those changes are impacting injury patterns. In the second session, we'll bring those insights together and look at state and national trends and what that means for our industry. And I also want to mention our keynote speaker this year is Wharton Professor and Artificial Intelligence thought leader Ethan Mollick. He's a leading expert in this space. He's going to be presenting on the transformative nature of AI and what that might mean for our industry. So we're also hitting that topic as well.
That lines up pretty closely.
It does. It's intentional. The feedback and questions we get from our stakeholders really help to drive topics we consider for AIS, for the research we might examine, or enhancements to the offerings that NCCI has and things that we might want to look at. So we take that feedback very seriously. And when we work with our presenters on our AIS topics, we really appreciate the connective tissue between our sessions that help attendees come away with a greater understanding of the overall work comp landscape. We focus on delivering practical and relevant insights that folks can then use when they return to their office.
I love the idea of telling one larger story, and I think that this year's agenda really reflects that.
It does. After Donna presents the State of the Line this year, we have the State of the Line dialogue where 3 additional NCCI experts will dig even deeper into the data. And then on day 2, we've got Donna returning to the stage in a session called Connecting Themes That Impact Results Across States, where she's going to look at economic, medical, infrastructure, and workforce trends. And these themes are really woven throughout all of the sessions, but Donna's going to examine how these factors can shape state-level results differently.
Which seems like very important to tee up given our closing session this year.
Yes, for our last session on day 2, Tracy Ryan, our president and CEO, is going to be joined on stage by Andrea Coleman and Jeremy Addy, the presidents and CEOs of the California and New York State rating bureaus, respectively. They're going to be talking about issues, trends, and unique state dynamics that go into the work of supporting a healthy work comp system.
And Mark, don't we always say every state has a story?
We do.
So as we look ahead to this year's AIS, is there anything that you are most looking forward to?
Well, we've got some outstanding content to share this year for sure, and that complemented by the engagement opportunities at AIS is just very exciting for me. Seeing people come together, ask questions, and connect ideas across sessions, that's when the value of AIS really comes through.
And how about when attendees leave? Is there something that you hope that they take away?
I think a clearer picture of where the work comp system stands today, and hopefully a better framework for thinking about what's ahead.
That's a perfect way to end this conversation, Mark. Thank you for joining us. I really appreciate your time.
Thanks, Christine.
Thank you for listening to the State of the Line podcast. We'll see you next time.
This podcast is the copyrighted material of the National Council on Compensation Insurance, 2026. All rights reserved.